Okay, so what if I told you that one of the best books for understanding America today was actually written almost 200 years ago? Seriously, we're going to be diving into Alexis de Tocqueville's masterpiece, Democracy in America. It's this incredible outsider's look at the US that is, and this is the crazy part, still so relevant. Let's get into it. So, you just saw that quote, right? That's really the observation that kicks this whole thing off. I mean, you gotta picture it. It's the 1830s. Europe is just a total mess. We're talking failed revolutions, monarchies crumbling left and right, just complete chaos. But then you look across the ocean, and there's America. And it's not just holding on, it's thriving. It was peaceful, it was growing, and it was like nothing else in the world. And that's the big question, right? The one that absolutely obsessed Tocqueville. It's why he traveled thousands and thousands of miles all over this brand new country. He just had to know, how did America do it? How did this wild, radical experiment in democracy actually succeed when basically everyone else was failing so spectacularly? Yeah, for him, America was this giant puzzle. And believe me, he was determined to figure it out. This wasn't a vacation for him. This was a mission. So who exactly was this guy, Alexis de Tocqueville? Well, he was a French aristocrat, a nobleman, but he was smart. He could see the writing on the wall. The age of kings and nobles was over. Democracy, he thought, was the future. But, and this is key, it also kind of scared him. So he came to America not to sing its praises, but to put it under a microscope. He wanted to figure out what made it tick, the good, the bad, all of it, so he could take those lessons back home. So, what were his big takeaways? Well, he came to believe America's success was no accident. Not at all. It was more like a very specific recipe. He found what he called America's secret ingredients. Three key things that all work together to make the whole experiment work. He basically broke it down into three pillars. First, where Americans came from, their origins. Second, the laws, the way the government was set up. And third, and this one he thought was maybe the most important, was something he called mœurs. Now, that's a French word, and it's a little tricky. It means more than just manners. It's kind of like the habits of the heart, the culture, the customs, the whole moral vibe of the people. And for that first pillar, origins, he looks all the way back to the beginning. And he sees this huge difference between the North and the South. Down in Virginia, you basically had get-rich-quick adventurers looking for gold. That, he said, led to a pretty chaotic society. But then you look at New England. Totally different story. You had these educated, middle-class families. They weren't there for gold. They were there to build a new society based on their religious beliefs. And that, Tocqueville argued, created this foundation of order, morality, and a sense of public duty that was just crucial for everything that came later. Okay, so pillar number 2, the laws. And what's really interesting here is that Tocqueville wasn't blown away by the big federal government in Washington. Nope. He was way more impressed with what was happening in the small towns. He called the local township the School of Freedom. Think about it. This is where regular people learned how to be citizens. In town meetings, arguing about schools or fixing a road, that's where they learned to participate, to take responsibility. They weren't just being ruled, they were learning how to rule themselves. Which brings us to those mœurs, the American character. And man, this quote just nails it. The American pioneer heading out with a Bible, an axe, and newspapers. It's such a powerful image, right? You've got the Bible for that moral, religious foundation. You've got the axe for hard work, self-reliance, building something new. And then, the newspapers. That's the key. It shows an informed people who are engaged and connected, even way out on the edge of civilization. Let's stick with religion for a second, because for Tocqueville, this was absolutely essential. What he saw in America was fascinating. There were tons of different churches, all these different sects, but he noticed they all pretty much taught the same basic moral code. And that shared morality was like the glue holding society together. It gave people a sense of restraint. So in his mind, religion didn't directly control the government, but it shaped the people, and the people are what make a republic work. But okay, Tocqueville's book is not just a big celebration of America. Not at all. Because he also saw a huge, terrifying danger. And the scary part is he saw it lurking inside the very thing that made America great, its commitment to equality. So if equality is the engine of democracy, what's the downside? I mean, what happens when rule by the people means the majority gets to decide everything? What happens when they're not just strong, but unstoppable?
And this leads us to one of his most famous and most chilling ideas, the tyranny of the majority. And listen, he wasn't talking about a dictator or a king. He was talking about a social pressure, a kind of overwhelming force of public opinion that basically bullies everyone into thinking the same way. It's that feeling where it's just easier to agree with everyone else than to speak up and be the odd one out.
I mean, just listen to this quote. He says, "The majority has enclosed thought within a formidable circle." Whoa, think about that. Inside the circle, you're free. But if you dare step outside it, you're done. You risk being isolated, losing your job, being publicly shamed. And his biggest fear was that this pressure wouldn't produce innovators and brave leaders. It would produce a country full of people who are too scared to think for themselves.
And this wasn't just some abstract psychological fear he had. Tocqueville was also brutally honest about the massive, glaring contradictions he saw right at the heart of the American project.
I mean, he just couldn't get past the incredible hypocrisy of it all. Here's a nation screaming about freedom and equality for all, while it was literally built on the enslavement of one race and the destruction of another. For him, this wasn't just a flaw, it was the country's original sin. He wrote this really long and honestly pretty depressing part of the book about what he called the three races. And his conclusions were just grim. He saw the white European as the unstoppable force, just conquering everything. He saw the Native American, proud and unwilling to change, being pushed towards total destruction. And he saw the Black American suffering under slavery, and he predicted that even if slavery ended, deep-seated prejudice would make true freedom almost impossible. And he tells this one story that just sticks with you. He's traveling through a forest in Alabama, and he sees an Indian woman, a Black woman, and a little white child all together. And for him, that one picture, that one moment, was like a living snapshot of the entire American tragedy. The destinies of these three peoples, all tangled up together, but all so terribly unequal. Okay, but that leads us to maybe the most mind-blowing part of his book, his predictions. The guy was basically a prophet, and some of his prophecies about the future are just stunning. Get this, at the very end of his book, way back in the 1830s, he predicts that the future of the world will be dominated by two great powers, America and Russia. Insane, right? And he breaks down the difference. America, he says, conquers with the plowshare. It's all about individual freedom and enterprise. Russia, on the other hand, conquers with the sword, concentrating all power into the hands of one single ruler. I mean, that's basically the Cold War predicted over 100 years before it happened. But here's the thing. Even after seeing all the dangers, the tyranny of the majority, the hypocrisy of slavery, he didn't think America was doomed to fail. He actually believed the country was incredibly resilient. He thought that its foundations, the local self-government, the way people formed clubs and associations, that shared moral code, were strong enough to help it survive even its biggest challenges. And it's just wild to remember that he wrote all this almost 200 years ago. Think about that. He was looking at a small, mostly farming country with only 24 states. And yet, what he saw, the good, the bad, the things to worry about, is still so unbelievably on point today. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question. Tocqueville's biggest fear, his tyranny of the majority, was based on the power of small-town gossip and newspapers. So what would he even say about our world, about social media? A world where that formidable circle of public opinion isn't just in your town, but it's on your phone, in your pocket, 24/7, amplified a billion times over. It's a scary thought. And it's what makes his book not just a piece of history, but a really urgent warning for all of us, right now.